Hey, it's Dr. J, Steve Jensen from the National Sales Academy and Impact Training. And today I've got a really great surprise for you. I've been in the fitness industry for 100 years, and so is this guy almost too. And it's just an absolute pleasure to invite one of my closest friends, but also colleagues along. And it's Justin Tamsett from Active Management. And let me just tell you, this guy travels the world helping businesses in the fitness industry make sure that they maximize their income, but also creates a collaboration. And I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive on how collaboration works and how sharing makes a massive difference to actually increase his business. Justin's had a huge success in doing this. So welcome, Justin. Good to see you, mate.
Thank you, Dr. J. It's great to be here. I'm not in a toilet, but I'm in a beautiful hotel in downtown Sydney.
Well, look, we just had a great rendition of where you're going, getting you ready. And I must say, you're quite innovative to making sure you can do this for us. So thank you.
I have my laptop and my phone on top of a glass vase, and in the background is a mirror. So I'm looking straight at myself in the camera, and then right behind me is a mirror, and I'm looking at myself. So it's extremely ugly.
The things we do. Look, mate, you've been in the fitness industry for a very long time, and I've had the absolute delight and pleasure of working alongside you and also as a colleague. And one of the things you've made a massive difference to businesses in Australia and now all around the world is working with them as a collaboration. And it's some people think it's a new word, but you started the Roundtables, 15 plus years ago. And it was very innovative back then. And what it did, it brought people together where they shared ideas, best practice, and made sure there was a collaboration, there was a team. And everyone starts talking about collaboration now, but you were the very first to do it. You actually spearheaded it throughout Australia and in New Zealand, and now you travel the world. Now, I'd love you to tell everybody what a roundtable is. It's not the knights from the round table, it's actually people from the fitness industry. And I know there's a few different types, but I'll dovetail into that a little bit later.
Yeah, well, I guess to go right back to the beginning, I was actually a member of a roundtable. So when I had my club, we were members of a roundtable, which was run originally by Jerry Faust, who's out of the United States. And the concept is really simple. We get 10 to 12 non-competing business owners to come together for 2 days and strip the business back. So we strip it back from a strategic perspective, not so much an operational perspective. And when we talk about running business, it's very easy to fall straight into that operation mode because operations are really easy. Strategy is the thing that's really hard. You got to think about that. You got to work challengingly to get that bit right. And so roundtables around that strategy, and certainly we do talk some operations, but it's primarily that. And what I saw as a member of a roundtable was the profound effect that it had, not just on my business, but on my life and my peers' life and their businesses. And so when the opportunity came up for me to take the Rex Roundtables license in Australia 15 years ago, we took that on and have never looked back. We have had great, amazing successes that I'll probably cover with you today. And I guess the first thing I would say, and before I hand back to you, I guess, for a question, is the number one success that I would say Roundtable brings is the relationship between other club owners. It goes way beyond just being fellow business owners. We are people who can confide in each other because of the confidentiality that we have in the group, but we confide in so many different areas. And everybody around the table knows the pain that we go through running a small business. Everybody around the table knows the ecstasy as well that we have when we hit a home run. So it's an amazing and very unique group that gets together.
And you hit the nail on the head. It's a group of people that know each other, not just in their business, like in a lot of people go to networking meetings and you can go network, but this is a group of people that actually have been chosen and it'll be working together collaboratively. Now, I'd love you to tell our listeners how it actually works. How does a round table work? Now, you said there was 10 to 12 people. How does it all, you get together, and how do you put the people together that are going to work well?
Yeah, there's a lot of hope and praying around it that they're going to work well. But it really comes back to the individuals that want to join a Roundtable. And it doesn't matter, and you know this from Impact's perspective. In fact, you could probably give some examples when I finish around where you've seen this, is that it's a matter of timing. For a club owner to really need help or to be wanting to be part of this group is about timing for them, that they feel comfortable enough to be able to get out of their business 6 days a year in order to chew the thin on business. What is most important is that the owner, it doesn't work, by the way, a Roundtable doesn't work if you've got managers. It has to be for owners, because owners are the decision makers in the business. And when you're coming up with strategic decisions for the business, you need the owner making that strategic decision, not a manager who's then got to go back to the owner. But that owner has to be in a mental headspace to be open to suggestions, to be open to new ideas, to be open to ways to do things better. And I'm sure you've got a proliferation of owners you've worked with, Steve, where that mindset has not actually been the case. You've gone in and said, this is the way we want to do a sales process. And they've gone, oh no, my way works better than that. And it's like, really? Well, then why don't you do impact sales training and I'll just go and find something else to do? Have you had that experience?
Look, sometimes you go in there and say, well, this is the way we do it. Now, you have to be mindful that there's a culture and so forth. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And the way I work it is say, look, we can keep the good bits, but let's just look at the results. Are they getting what you want? If you're where you want to be and you're growing to where you want to get to, let's leave it. And the answer is usually no. But you're absolutely correct. It has to be the right time, and it needs to be a time where, oh, I've tried everything, it's not working, and I'm getting desperate, or I'm at a place now where I'm doing okay, but I'm ready to go to the next level. So what sort of things do you cover when you run a round table? How does it work? What happens on the 2 days? I think you said 2 days?
Yeah. So there's two components, I guess, to a round table meeting over those 2 days. The first is the agenda is put together by the members. So these are the challenges that they're facing in the business. And the members basically, well, actually, that's not true necessarily challenges. But the members put their stuff together for the agenda, and I'll talk about that. And then I'll put the education side of things together for the agenda. So the education will often be impacted by the topics that they want to discuss, or it could be education that I see happening outside of Australia or in other industries. And so we talk about that. Now, what we cover is almost like a member journey. So we talk about marketing, we talk about sales, all from a strategic perspective. So we talk about marketing, sales, then we talk about onboarding of members, we talk about retention, we talk about programming, we talk about profit centers, we talk about human resource management, we talk about financial management. We then talk about the growth of the business, like what can we do to actually grow the business from a strategic perspective. And of course, we talk about our own personal self. And when we talk about ourselves, then that opens us up, I guess, to be vulnerable to the rest of the group. And when we're vulnerable to the rest of the group, it means when we're talking about the issues that we're going to talk about, we actually get real information, not bullshit. Because
that's an interesting word you just used there, mate. Vulnerability. Especially, look, in most businesses, but, because we work a lot in the fitness industry. And there's this, some people come with an ego and they don't want to be shown to be vulnerable. But isn't it interesting when people actually show vulnerability and they say, gee, it's not working, I need help. And around people that are your confidants, the help comes, and people are really generous with helping. I have found, I mean, I've been there myself. I can do this, but all of a sudden I need help. And you put your hand out to people you trust. And and then there's that bonding. And gee whiz, when someone comes to your rescue and helps you, that reciprocity happens, doesn't it? You want to help them too. So it would be a wonderful feeling to be feeling in a safe place. It's a safe place where you can talk authentically, where you're not actually having to, fluff your feathers and always saying I'm bulletproof, because vulnerability allows you to have help. But if you're bulletproof, no one's going to even say, well, you're okay, aren't they?
I'm going to use that in my next marketing piece. I really like that. You're in a safe place where you're vulnerable to be and open up. And this is a key thing. I think when you said, okay, who should join Roundtable, or when do you join Roundtable? You've got to be comfortable to be in a place where you can be vulnerable, where you can put your hand up and say, I need help. Or you can put your hand up and say, hey, I'm really proud of this result. And no one has fucking said, great job.
Absolutely. And because you have owners, and I work with owners all the time, they're at the top of the tree. And if they do something well, none of the staff say well done. And they do need a pat on the back. They say they don't, but they're humans, aren't they? They're not robots. So
correct.
When it comes down to...
So that's that's in that agenda. In each of those areas that I talked about before, we then break that down into 3 spaces. And one space is, well, what's the challenge that you've got in sales? What's a success that you've had in sales? Or what's an idea that you've got that you want to bounce off the round table in relation to sales, and then marketing, and then da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So you do have an opportunity to brag, but you've also, and share best practices, because that's what it's about as well. Because if I can learn from you on how you do something, that's going to make my life easier. And again, I'm happy to share my information with you as well.
And look, everyone wants to create community these days. It's a very click word, isn't it? Let's get community. Yeah. And we know community works. But you're the very first to actually start this, bringing the Rex Roundtables alive in Australia. So you've got this inner circle where you are safe. You can talk about your wins, and you can say, hey, this is not working. And then someone says, I can help you. I've got a resource. And there's an instant collaboration within that 10 to 12 people. Isn't it? In that 10 to 15 mark is around about the right amount, because if there's too many, you just don't get around and meet them. Now,
it becomes like it's like a conference. When you get more than 10 or 12 people, it's like a conference.
Yeah, that's right.
Whereas this is, it's a discussion, and you sit in a U shape, so you can't hide. And my job as the facilitator is to ensure that everybody gives feedback. Everybody has an opportunity to speak, and not one person dominates. I think one of the other really important things I'd like to say, Steve, also is that Roundtable is very different to a mastermind group. So a mastermind group comes together, probably similar sorts of people might go to both. But the big difference between a mastermind group and a roundtable is the mastermind group generally has a curriculum that you follow. So you come together and you start at point A, and we're going to teach you all the steps to get to point B. Roundtable is a dynamic beast where we're talking about things that have happened in the business in the last 4 months, and things that are going to be happening in the business over the next 4 months, 8 months, 12 months, or 24 months. So it's not driven by curriculum. It's not driven by a hidden agenda. It's driven by this dynamic beast that we call business.
It's a work in progress, and nothing ever stays the same. So if we then pinpoint the type of businesses that work in your roundtables, what type of businesses join a roundtable?
Mate, I've got everything from fitness studios to big box clubs. I've got a PT roundtable. I've got an Anytime Fitness roundtable. The Anytime's a bit different because they're obviously governed by a franchise. So there are some things that they can and can't do around that operations and certainly sometimes strategically. But in general, any size business can work in the round table, provided you as the owner are prepared to share successes, share failures, and help each other and be open to ideas.
Now, I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that people can join the round table, but they have to be accepted by the other people in the round table. It's not just like they can just join any round table, or here comes Steve, or here comes JT. They can join the round table. They've got to say, what are you bringing? Because there's got to be a give and a take. You can't go there just say, I've got nothing, and just take. You've got to be able to give. And if they're on the round table and they're let's say just a taker, sometimes they can be removed from the round table. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. So if they are, I guess if they're a sponge where they just soak everything up and actually don't give anything back, then the round table would simply say, look, we're not getting value from you as a member. And that's a very difficult conversation to have. And that in itself is a great learning experience for owners, is to be able to evaluate whether everybody is contributing. Certainly the first 1 or 2 meetings is really uncomfortable for a new member. Not uncomfortable in the sense of, I don't like this. It's uncomfortable in the sense of being in an environment that they're not used to. If you like, it's like being a member of a gym and you've never joined a gym before. It's like, I've never been in an environment like this. I've never been in an environment where members are talking about their partners and what's happening in their own relationships. It's a really interesting kind of model in that sense.
Well, I suppose it's like a friendship, isn't it? When you they don't know each other, so they don't have the commonality. But as soon as they get commonality, they're part of a mini tribe. And again, that's a very click word at the moment. Well, one question here. What was that?
I do pair them up with another member.
Okay.
So to help them, I guess, assimilate into the group, I'll pair them up with somebody. And so they get to know one other member really deeply between our meetings, so that when they come in, they've got like a buddy, if you will, that they'll sit with, and they'll have breakfast with, will exercise with, and they'll get really close. So then that makes it easier for that transition into the group.
Oh, that's great. Now, I want to do a bit of a deep dive here with reference to you've been running for a long time. Now, I'd like to find out 2 of the biggest challenges that the larger and medium-sized clubs that you're working with, that comes up regularly. And, I go into lots of clubs and so forth, and they usually have similar challenges. Sometimes they're quite unique, but most of the time they are, and you just have to tailor the solution. But what are some of the biggest challenges you're finding when it comes down to people that come to the round tables that they need help with, and how the collaboration has worked?
Not surprisingly, it's probably lead generation. So more often than not, we share, it's almost like show and tell at preschool. We get everybody to bring their marketing that they've done over the last 4 months and share that with the group. And we talk about what did it cost you? What did it get you? Would you do anything else different around that marketing piece? So that's an extremely powerful component of the meeting. The other side of things that is pretty common is, how do we find good staff? What are we doing to find good staff? What are we doing to onboard new staff? So we often have that discussion around that HR piece. And then I would suggest the third area that we spend a lot of time talking about is building that secondary income stream. So for example, on one of my roundtables at the moment, 5 clubs have all launched in the last 12 months a brand within a brand. So they've all had F45 come into their market, or some other fitness studio. And so they're like, how do we compete with that? Well, let's just come up with our own brand inside our club. So we looked at a couple of different models in the US. We looked at how they operate. Some I'd been to, others I hadn't, but I knew of. We unpacked how that business model worked, and then they've rolled out their own version in their clubs, where people can be members of just their group training program or members of the big box club. So together we've kind of, using your word, collaborated on what is the best sort of model, how do we brand it, how do we package it, how do we sell it, and how do we then drive that as a secondary income stream in our business. And it's been really interesting to see how that 5 of the clubs have started that brand within a brand.
Well, suppose once you've actually created a strategy that works, everyone then can tailor it for them, but they've actually got the strategy in place. I'd love to do just a couple of examples of not the club's names or whatever, but a specific challenge that they had, such as let's say secondary spend or recruitment, and have an example of what the problem was and what happened in the group to actually and to help them have a successful outcome. Just a couple of small examples.
Yeah, let me give you a personal example where we had one roundtable member really disclose a lot around their mental health, their personal mental health. And at the end of that conversation, again, this is because they feel so comfortable and so in that environment that they disclosed a lot about how they were upstairs. And at the end of their discussion, which went, I don't know, maybe 30, 45 minutes. It was a fair chunk. They said, this is the first time I've been honest with anybody about my mental state, other than the professional that I see. And everybody kind of went, wow. And everybody was crying, like I literally mean people were crying in the room. And at the end of that 45 minutes, I said, right, let's take a break. And I watched people get up from their seats and literally embrace each other. And I'm like, that doesn't happen in a normal business meeting. We've got something pretty special here.
It just shows you when someone finds, if you're always talking business, and let's face it, that's part of our life. And the other part is who we are with our kids and our family. And people actually then connect in a safe place. That actually, I would suggest, and I've seen similar things happen. The people actually want to help that person, and that it bonds them a lot quicker. So yeah. That's quite profound, and you can't do that in a place that you're not comfortable. So I'm sure that he or she has had lots of help along the way since.
Oh, absolutely. And then the second one is one exercise that we do every year in our meeting is that we bring our P&Ls and we go through line by line on the expense sheet what our expenses are. And what I can tell you is that members have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars, or at least paid for their roundtable for a year by going, how come your power bill is that and you're exactly the same square meterage as me and my power bill is that? What's the difference? Oh, well, I have this contract with this organisation. And so when we go through line by line, all of a sudden now we're sharing and people are jumping on board with, I know I had someone jump on board with an insurance broker and they ended up saving $5,000 a year on their insurance. I had another person go back to their cleaner of their club and say, I've got a mate and he's got a gym the same size as ours and he's paying 75% of what I'm paying for cleaning. Can you reduce your price? What can you do? And they went, well, yeah, I could reduce my price. I want to keep the job. So because you can compare apples with apples often on a P&L. So we do that every single year, half a day, drilling all the way through line by line on a P&L, and people save money.
Well, that's if you can save money, save time, make money, and not be alone. They're the 4 to 5 triggers that actually help people make decisions when it comes down to sales. So
yeah, absolutely,
it's really powerful, mate. Because sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and then when someone else is doing it, so my goodness, I never knew that, and then you can actually then help each other. So just that alone, you could be able to give them a call. Not even when they're at their roundtables, and I'm sure they collaborate in between your meetings. Is that right?
Yeah. They work in buddies or trios between meetings, and we have a closed Facebook group. So the closed Facebook group is kind of where we discuss operational issues, where people are going to say, oh, look, how do you do this in your club, or what do you do in this situation? So really operational based, where we can give an answer within 2 or 3 minutes. And so we have that for the operation side of things, and then we have that strategy when we get together. So the other really interesting thing that we're just starting to do now, and it's not something that I like to push, But we're starting to use a bit of group buying as well. So we've just done a marketing piece where all the round tables were shared. This is the marketing piece. Jump in and gang print on this print run by this date, and the price will come down.
Terrific.
And so, some of them are saving thousands of dollars because instead of getting 5,000 or 10,000 pieces printed, we're getting 200,000 pieces printed. And so that brings a price from 50 cents right back to like 20 cents. So you're saving 30 cents a piece on that. So that's a pretty exciting aspect that we haven't done. And we're looking at doing that with merchandise sales, like T-shirts and water bottles and all that sort of stuff next year.
Well, that's all. Look, we've talked about big boxes and middle-sized boxes and so forth. And I know in our industry, there's been a massive increase in the number of, and we call them small box or studio type of facilities. And we also have the personal trainers as well. So you also have roundtables for smaller associations and also franchises. Now, franchises are a little different because they're under governance. What are some of the different challenges the smaller clubs have and the smaller franchise type of facilities have that are a little different from the bigger clubs? And if you give us a couple of examples specifically for them, because there's a lot of them around, and we'll leave the personal trainers for the wrap up.
It's usually a zero in the balance sheet. The big box clubs often make more money as a dollar amount, but less as a percentage of profit, a percentage of turnover. Whereas your franchises may in fact make a less dollar amount, but a higher return on investment. So that's been a really interesting thing for me to look at. Look, to be honest, the challenges for both businesses are exactly the same. They still face the challenge of lead generation. They still face the challenge of finding good people. So it doesn't really matter what kind of business you're in. There's a lot of similarities because you're in business. And I think this is the thing that binds everybody together, is that it's a fitness business, whether it's like, for example, in New Zealand, my New Zealand roundtable, I've got a fitness studio, I've got council facilities, I've got a university, and I've got an independent club. Now, probably in Australia, I would not have those people all on the one round table, but because of the market size in New Zealand, we can. But they all say the same thing. This is just business, JT. It doesn't matter what our entity is. It's about business, and you're helping us get better at our business and helping us think and do different.
So given that there's the big rock is marketing or lead gen and also staffing, it's a relatively, let's say, universal challenge. What's one thing that they've done, just one either for recruitment or for lead gen, that they've done that has rectified that? Just an example of a strategy that might have popped up.
Yeah, so a couple of the clubs have moved from written resumes to apply for jobs to send a video.
Yes, I've heard about that. And it's quite interesting. I actually have a client that just did exactly the same thing the other day and was inundated with people that were really of high quality. How's that?
Yeah, it's just, it's a different way to advertise, different way to get applicants. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to see that person, see if we can connect, even just by video. And also, generally, we've got video now in our marketing strategies as well. So they've got to be comfortable in front of a camera. So that's been a big one. But I'd also go back to kind of lead generation around marketing of those brands within brands. So we've really looked at what message are we trying to create. And one of our members shared this amazing success story of number of leads that he generated on Instagram for his brand within the brand. And he was able to compare how many leads they generated for their group training program compared to their box. And it was chalk and cheese. Like the big box club, the marketing source, for want of a better description, was Facebook and flyers and the sign, whereas for the brand within a brand, the marketing source was Instagram by a country mile.
Wow.
And
then
sharing that sort of data just means for the other guys, they're like, right, we need to up our Instagram. And, you know, he went through his whole marketing strategy on how he uses Instagram to grow his business. And that had an impact, obviously, with everybody else.
And what I'm hearing here is that you're not just saying, oh, someone said, or I heard this at a conference. You're actually seeing it live when they say, well, this is my data. This is what's happened. I've got a club in a club. I'm getting a ton of leads in here. The other bits aren't working as well, but it's still inside the club. So we're getting the leads, but it's not hearsay. And then people can say, hey, it's true. How do we do it? So again, that fast tracks an outcome and also fixes a problem quickly.
Absolutely. And it almost makes things tangible, doesn't it? That you can touch it. And generally, if it's a direct mail piece, you can touch it. But it's really powerful. The other side of things around lead generation is often before anyone goes to print or goes public, they share that marketing piece with the Roundtable and they go, so what do you guys think? And I can tell you, we've picked up spelling errors, grammar errors. We've picked up bits that they're just blatantly missing. And it's like, okay, we need to fix that. And so it's not even talking about the copy or the image or whatever. It's just, sometimes it's just the basics that we get so close when we're reading and writing something that we don't see and we need someone else to look at it.
Well, that'd be incredibly powerful. It would be great to have a close knit of people that understand what you're doing and know your brand and say, this is what I'm doing. I said, oh, why don't you try this, Steve? Or why don't you try that, JT? And there's a mistake here. And there's a care factor. And you only got these, this small group that care enough to do that. So that's just those three things. Makes it so, let's put it compelling to actually see what the other people are doing. Now, I'd like to talk about personal trainers. Mm-hmm. So many of these young people out there and people changing their lives and getting into that field, whether it's a group personal trainer or whether it's a Les Mills trainer or a personal trainer that does a little bit of both. And I know you run a roundtable for personal trainers. I know they wouldn't be doing lots of staffing because they're working for their business. Maybe lead gen. What's another thing that they have a challenge with, and what's something that you put into practice to help them?
Yeah, probably the number one thing is growth. It's like, okay, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to any personal trainers, but their ego takes over and they're kind of here, but they want to be there. And whatever that looks like, it could be they want to go from being an outdoor trainer to actually having a bricks and mortar. And that's their goal. It could be that their studio is only 100 square meters and they want to go to a 300 square meter facility. It could be that they want to go from 50 clients to 100 clients, whatever it is. They just want that growth. Now they do want it overnight, but on the Roundtable, the ability to come in and say to a bunch of PTs who all walk in the same shoes as them each and every day, to be able to say, this is where my business is, this is where I wanted to get, and here's my strategy. What do you guys think? Is really powerful. So if I sat down with you and said, here's where my business is and here's where I want it to be, I get one perspective, your perspective. Now, personally, I value your perspective. But you, respectfully, Steve, think a lot like me. So we're going to come up with pretty similar answers. But if I bring someone else into that conversation who might be younger, who might have corporate experience outside our industry, may even be as simple as being a female, because females think very differently to males. And we see this on the Roundtable a lot when we're talking about human resources, because the men go, if you're talking about someone who's not performing, the men go, oh, just fire their ass. And the woman goes, there could be something else going on. And with all disc personalities, again, you've got different perspectives. So the power of the Roundtable is, here's where my business is, here's where I want to take it, and I'm going to share my strategy. I now have 5, 6, 7 people with different perspectives on that growth strategy. That's the power of a round table, whether it's a PT business or a big box club. That's the power, different perspectives on your growth strategy.
3 different ways of actually having a change to a business with collaboration. And this has been gold. Guys, I hope you're listening to all of this and writing it down. Justin sharing with you some of the strategies that some of these people have put together. Obviously, I bet you're thinking about it and say, well, look, that sounds like a good idea. I want to wrap up our chat because I know you've got to go. If you could just tell us, the listeners and me, why do you think the round table works so well? Because you've been doing for 15 years. I know one of our very close friends, Tony, has just gone overseas to go to his round table, and he's been in the fitness industry as long as we have and longer.
Their round table's been going 30 years.
There you go. And he will not miss it. Now, this is an icon in the industry, Tony. And he goes and meets with all the big chiefs. And I know them all and you know them all too. And he does not miss it. He'll go overseas to go over to America and then over to Brazil to go to his round tables. And he will not miss it. So I want you to tell the listeners why you think it works so well.
I think it is, I think it's the respect that people have for each other. I think it's the respect that they know that where people are coming from to help their business get better is a place of love. It's not a place of, I want to bring you down, or I actually want to prove to you that I'm better than you and I'm up here. It's a place that genuinely comes from the heart on how to get better as a business. And the more time you spend with these people, you break away from like being industry colleagues to industry peers to friends. Now, the challenge with that is when you are friends is you've still got to hold people accountable and you still got to ask those tough questions. But when you're at that deep level of trust, some of the questions you ask are questions that no one else would have the balls to ask. No one else would have that intestinal fortitude to actually say, hey, Steve, do you think da-da-da-da-da-da is the right thing for the business? Most people just go, oh, that's great. Yeah, awesome, fantastic. So I think that's where the big difference is that as we build a relationship and the bond between each other, people ask the really tough questions in business that are generally not asked.
And I suppose when they're asking the right questions, it's not just about telling all the bad stuff, because you're collaborating and you're very well connected. You can find a solution. So it's you tell me tell me what to do, because there's a tried and proven way of doing it, and it's not just from hearsay. Look, we could talk for hours on this, and I just really found it fascinating. I just want to finish on this, and from my understanding from what you've told me in the past, and we've known each other for a very long time, there are some rules and there's some parameters that you set in the round table so you could have that open dialogue and people can have that trust component and that sharing component. Could you just share one or two of the most important rules to qualify, in other words, to become part of the round table?
Yep. Really, there's only 2 rules. Number 1 is you've got to be the owner. And number 2 is you cannot compete with anyone else on the round table that you're going on to. If you tick both those boxes, then you can apply for that particular round table. Then it becomes the next criteria, which is you as a person or as an owner, that you're open to those ideas like we talked about before. And if you are open to those ideas, then you come to the round table. You come to the first meeting. If you like it, you stay. If you don't like it, you go. You're under no obligation to stay. You come in and you see what it's like. Because as much as I'm trying to articulate what a round table is like on video or on a website or on a marketing piece, it's nothing like actually being there. And everybody says that has been to a meeting, they walk out going, that's not what I expected. That is so different. That's so deeper more profound in the discussions that I ever imagined.
And it proves it in the tasting and being there. And look, you're absolutely spot on. And I'm just going to add something to what I know. There's a confidentiality bond with everybody. That what goes to the round table stays on the round table, so to speak. You know what I mean? But it's quite strong. It's a very strong, not quite strong. It's a very strong component that we keep that internal and doesn't go past these walls. And I remember you telling me that was a very strong an agreement that everyone has.
The interesting thing is, Steve, we've never had to kick anyone off any round table for breaching confidentiality. It's like, which is kind of weird in the world that we now live in, that someone doesn't let something slip. But everybody understands that what we talk about is extremely confidential. And it's kind of within the four walls. And there are things that are discussed at the round table that my wife doesn't even know that is discussed, and partners don't find out, and staff never find out. And it is literally, you're in the vault of information, and there's sharing, and there's robust discussion, and there's crying, and there's high fives, and people walk out and they just go, right, I'm ready to attack the world for the next 4 months until we meet again.
Is there accountability in place after a round table? Because so many places go to a meeting or a training or whatever. And one of the things that we do with Impact a lot now is we do the training, but we have accountability calls and Zooms, but also implementation sessions we're just not training all the time. Do you have an accountability component or a way that making sure people follow through?
Yeah, look, we certainly do. It's not like school. So I guess the feedback that I got when we first launched is that I don't want to be treated like a school student. I was like, okay, but we've got to hold you accountable. Otherwise, how do you get a return on investment? So I'm like, oh. So what we do is it is always optional, but all owners are encouraged to select 2 numbers that they want to shift in the business between now and the next meeting, and 2 projects that they want to work on between now and the next meeting. And then they bring that to the next meeting and say, okay, so I moved this number from up 5 points. This is how I did it. And these are the projects that I worked on. And so there is that accountability. Now, some owners might put 5 projects or 3 numbers, and some might put 1 and some might put none. I don't enforce it, but it is a component of that accountability that we do work with, yeah.
Well, people that are doing things like that and investing time and money to work with others usually want to be held accountable. I'm finding that the best of the best, they hold me accountable because you remember you're working with the top of the tree. They're accountable to themselves. When they have someone else and their other team members, it does make a difference. Look, JT, I'm going to see if is there any way that you can give some of the listeners some little tidbits and so forth. Is there some PDFs or stuff or anything that you would suggest that they can grab from active management?
Oh, look, we've got a heap of different things from active management's perspective that they can grab by just going to activemgmt.com.au. There's lots of stuff there. But I think in order to get your head around potentially joining Roundtable, I'd highly recommend and would love to see people come and join the Active Management Community, which is a closed Facebook group. And I know you're involved with that, Steve, and contribute to that. We've got about, I think, nearly 1,200 people in that community at the moment. It's grown 15 times the size since March this year. And there's a lot of collaboration, a lot of sharing there. And if you're in that environment, you can start to see, actually, I like this and I want to now take it to that next level. Sometimes people get in that environment and they think that they want to share and they think they want to collaborate. But when they actually get in that environment, they kind of get stilted with their thinking or they're not prepared to do it. So this is a great first step in order to get your head around sharing your content and not being so protective, I guess. So if you just go to Active Management, normal spelling of management community on Facebook, hit join the group, I'll approve anybody that comes through you. That's all good. And that's a great little community. I mean, we're running at the moment a 10-day financially fit challenge. It's free, and there's 10 days of challenges in order to get your business financially fit by 2020. It's not far away. I think your little colleague Darren Roberts said the other day it's like 12 weeks or something to the end of the year. And are we getting close to our goals? So this is about setting financial goals and making sure that you're financially right for next year. So that would be the best place, I think, for people to start. And of course, just reach out to me if you're really interested in joining Roundtable, because you know it's the right thing to do right now. Reach out to me and I'm happy to have a chat.
Oh, terrific. Look, I actually saw the challenge. The questions you're asking in that challenge are really great. And I really love the way you're doing it in the community. And I strongly recommend everybody to join the active management community. It is a terrific group of people, a lot of sharing, a lot of resources, and lots of great ideas going backwards and forwards. And take that challenge. It's actually been going a couple of days now, so go back a couple of days. So active management community. And also, I'm going to be putting JT's details in the video. So it'll be at the end. And what I'll then do is if you just give him a call, we'll hit him on an email, and I'm sure he'll be able to help. Look, mate, a wealth of knowledge. You've got so many things that you can help people with, but I was really interested to really find out more about the collaboration that you have within your networks. A lot of people know they're around, but sometimes they don't know what the ins and outs are and how it could help them. So I'm sure it helped everybody today. So thanks for sharing some of your gold, mate.
My pleasure. And I mean, look, I think, joining a round table is like, again, joining a gym. The hardest thing is making that first step and going, actually, am I going to fit in? Everybody fits into the round table once I've worked out which round table I need to put you on. So, and Steve, we'll share this video. Thank you for the opportunity. So we're going to share this video on the active management community. I'm going to dare say via blog, and send that out on our social platforms. So if anybody has got all the way through me rabbiting on about Roundtable, what do you do? Tell everybody who's going to see this on our platform what Impact does.
Well, what we do, we've been doing sales and communications training for a very long time, as you know. And just recently, I've had a project I've been running. I'm very excited about it. It started in June, as you know. It was called the Sales Authority Club. And the Sales Authority Club is a hybrid of what we do. Now, we do it the normal in-house training, or in a circle where we do everything for everybody. We go in there, train everybody, create all the prompts, and do all the training. But we've also have some small businesses and some individuals that were, haven't got the time or haven't got the resources to do it. So we created the club. Now the club is really low cost, but it actually is online. So we do 45 minutes of training, and then we do implementation all on a Monday morning. And then we have a complete video series all done for you that you can put in front of your staff, and it's all included for free, all with the notebooks. And we have a planning day or planning morning. And then every quarter we come together with an event, and I usually combine the soft skills with the hard skills. So that was our new project that we launched in June. And at the moment, we've just finished our beta launch, and now it's actually in our foundation membership. So we're going to go to market and tell everyone about it, and we'll make sure that the active management people always get our foundation pricing. But the other exciting thing, and I haven't even told you about this, we are just about to launch our app. It's called the Making More Sales app. It's we're just going through a beta launch within our group just to make sure it's all good to go, and that'll be available. It's a free app which allows people to have tons of free resources and go to our Facebook groups. We've got a free Facebook group as well, like you, the Sales Success Club. That's just a whole lot of resources. We've got about 500 members in there. But the Sales Authority Club has been a new project. We had our first quarterly a little while ago. Everyone turned up from Perth and from Tasmania, Melbourne. It was a great day. And I'm actually tickled pink because it allows us to help more people maximize their sales so they can have the cash flow. And cash flow gives you freedom. So that's a little bit about what we've been doing.
Well, we'll make sure that we share your links in our blog post as well. And for those who don't know Steve, which is probably only people that are watching on our platforms, because everybody on your platform knows you. I've known Steve for 25 years, I think. And I would dare say he knows his shit better than anybody else when it comes to sales. So that Sales Authority Club is something you've got to get your teeth into and jump in on those foundation rates. So it'll help transform your business. Absolutely.
Terrific. Well, they get in the round tables and get into the club. We're good to go.
Great to go. Yep.
All right, gang, thanks for listening today. I hope you found it really interesting. I know I did. I always love hearing about success stories, and collaboration is the key, but keeping it within the confines of a safe group where you feel that you can be authentic, I think is going to make a massive difference to a lot of people. So Justin's been running these for a long time, and anything that stands the test of time is something to look into. So look into the roundtables, have a chat with JT, join the active management community, and let's kick some goals. Christmas time just around the corner, and then we're going to be in 2020. Who would have thought? All right, gang. Thanks, JT. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Dr. J, and I'll see you later. Bye for now.